This episode of I Am the Trend TV is brought to you by Threadbird Printing, high quality screen printing at affordable prices. What is up, everyone? Adam from IAMTHETREND.com and I Am the Trend TV, and we have Mr. Nick Roccanti from Threadbird Printing in the house. Nick and I go way back, so this is exciting
Ew.
for me. Like way back, right?
Wow, it's how long has it been? It's
We got to be approaching almost a decade here.
yeah, I'm thinking it's about 8 years, 7, 8 years maybe.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we met when I was doing, I think for the first time I actually met, I was doing I Am the Trend Live, and we came to one of
Yes.
the first Threadbird printing facility.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you've been, a sponsor of all the I Am the Trend videos and been super involved with I Am the Trend. And it's just awesome to have you on, man. So I think this is going to be super helpful to anyone starting a brand, people that had screen printing questions, and so on and so forth. So thanks again.
Perfect.
So for those of the few people that I'm sure are watching this that haven't heard of Threadbird, I guess just a little history and backstory and like how you got started into screen printing and where Threadbird came from.
Yeah. So I started out in the music industry, doing both management and working for record labels. Not so much a musician. Was never a very good musician, but I was always on the business side. And so I was always on the other end of ordering T-shirts, and I just kind of realized very quickly that there wasn't very many good print shops out there, and the quality was horrible as well as the customer service. I can't tell you how many times I ordered stuff for the bands on the road, and either it came in wrong, late, um, just everything about
Everything
it.
that could go wrong went wrong.
Everything could go wrong, always went wrong, and I felt like I was jumping around to so many different print shops trying to find somebody consistent. And I kind of told myself, somebody has to do this good. And when I got burnt out in the music industry, I was like, I'm gonna go
That
do
somebody's going
this.
to be me.
That it's like if somebody knows, I know what not to do,
Sure.
so I'm just gonna do the complete opposite and try to be that company I wish I could always find. And that was always my goal and how I kind of fell into it. I never really knew much about screen
I
printing.
was going to say, did you have a background other than just kind of interacting and just having terrible?
No, I'm just a business guy in
Got
the end.
it.
So I had to learn. So the first, I started. I kind of helped start a merch division for one of the record labels I was working for,
Okay.
and that was kind of my learning experience along the way. Is before going off on my own, but it
Nice.
just I kind of fell into it, and more importantly, I actually kind of just fell in love with the industry, what it is, what we do.
It's a
Uh,
happy kind
yeah,
of circumstance, really. I mean, you turned something that you were just had a terrible experience with into, a huge business now. So you guys have grown a lot over the last few years. I mean, you want to bring us up to speed now?
yeah. We are growing at such an incredible rate. Every time I turn around, I seem to be having to hire more employees. Just in
That's
the
great.
last year alone, we've doubled in size,
Wow,
um, and that does not look like it's slowing down
that's
anytime
great.
soon. So, uh, and the best part about it is I'm putting together an amazing team that we're not going through the growing pains that we once did. Uh,
Quality's still high.
so
Uh,
quality is high. There's definitely still challenges along the way when dealing with such amazing growth, but it's I've been really happy, and a big part of it is because of my team. The people I've been able to hire, the people I have around me, they really believe in what we do.
that's awesome. I love to hear it. And I actually just got a new Threadbird printed shirt today for FameBit, the company I work for, and it looks fantastic as expected.
Sweet,
So well done, sir.
thank you.
So I'm sure most people have the basic idea of screen printing, but I do see a lot of brands that are just like, I'm going to print shirts, I'm going to send this artwork off, and like I magically get shirts back. And they really don't know much about the process. And I know, we could spend, a few videos actually talking about the process, but you want to just give the basics of what screen printing involves and what that looks like for
Totally.
brands.
So first off, there's many different types of printing out there. So when you get T-shirts printed, there's multiple different ways. The most common way is screen printing, which is what we do, which is you take each color and a design, separate it into different layers, and then you make screens. Screens are basically like stencils that you
It's a
make.
great way of
You
putting it.
then you lay it flat on a T-shirt, and you push ink through the stencil, and you do each color one at a time. That is the very dumbed down version of it, and it's that is the general idea behind it.
Got
Uh,
it.
there's with the wonderful world of YouTube. Go out there and search some videos. Threadbird has a few videos on our website. Um, that kind of shows behind the scenes on our shop and designs being printed, and
Yep.
it's really cool. Like one color design to one color design, but when you start seeing the ones with like 10, 12 colors stuff when you use them process when you're blending inks together, it's just really cool to see how as each layer of ink goes down on the shirt, how that shirt really kind of comes to life. It's kind of really exciting.
Absolutely. So let's just talk real quick. You mentioned other printing processes. So, you have direct to garment, heat transfer, and I think screen printing are probably the main three, right?
And sublimation as well.
Sublimation. So, I guess why screen printing, and have you guys thought about going into direct to garment or anything else? Like, why do you
Um,
think that's the best if that's
Screen
happens to be?
printing is kind of the universal standard. There's pros and cons to every single printing style,
Sure.
but I've just found that screen printing is the best overall. It's not perfect, but it's the best option most of the time. Most time when people need T-shirts made, especially when you go to a retail store, they're printing multiple shirts, sometimes hundreds, thousands of T-shirts. And screen printing is the best way when printing in large numbers, as well as getting the best quality in
Yep.
the end. Um, where direct to garment, you can get good results. It's a love-hate relationship. I personally am not a fan of direct to garment, but there is a place in the industry for it. If you need a one-off T-shirt, direct to garment is perfect. If
Yep.
you especially, or if you just need a very small run of T-shirts and it's a full color design, direct to garment is a good option for you because there's no setup involved with it.
So that was going to lead into my next question. So why is there a order minimum when it comes to screen printing T-shirts?
So the minimum is because there is so much setup involved. As I mentioned earlier, you use screens, and each screen has to be made. So when we get an artwork, we take the artwork, we have to separate it, each color out separate, um, and then even set up an underbase for it, and then either make some based on what type of screen printer you're working with. You either have to make film that then turn the film into screens, or there's a direct to screen unit where it kind of skips one step. But you have to build every single screen separately.
Yep.
And usually there's costs. A lot of screen printers charge a fee for each screen making. Sometimes it's $15, sometimes it's $25. Some people don't charge you a screen fee, like we don't. We just kind of build it in because more importantly, because it confuses people.
Sure.
But there's a fee for the screens. Then on top of it, based off of how difficult the design is, you have to then set it up and align all those screens. The screens don't magically just all line up. There are tricks and things you can do to get it close, but it does then turn around and take time to make sure everything's lined up. In general, just to set up the screens, a good rule of thumb is about, roughly 10 minutes per color.
Per color.
If you want to do it the right way, where sadly a lot of screen printers there's tricks to get close, and they just use that and then just blow through it, and things are off a little bit. Where
Sure.
it's
So what do you mean by off? Let's just like touch into that real quick.
okay.
So
So
what's something if somebody gets a T-shirt, the brand, what should they be looking for to make sure like it was printed well? Sometimes it's not as obvious as what just kind of give it a glance over.
totally. So um, obviously, when you get a T-shirt, you want it to look like the design that you provided as close as possible. There's always some variations, but what I mean off is sometimes the screens are not perfectly set up on top of each other because each color is printed separately. If one screen is a little bit to the right, one screen is a little bit to the left, you're going to notice it. You see shadows, and it's not a tight registration. Um, it just looks off. Or sometimes there's what we call an underbase, which is a white layer that's printed down first, would be peeking out underneath
Got it.
to the side of it. It's very, very common with screen printing that it does have, you want to have that perfect registration. We strive for that, but it takes a lot of time to get there. So between, somebody comes say, hey, I have a 4-color design, which is pretty simple, and they just need 50 T-shirts made. Well, we still have to separate that designs. We go through a whole mock process to make sure everything's doing right. We still have to take the ink colors, mix them, make sure we have the right Pantone colors. We build all the screens, make sure those are ready to go. We connect those screens into the machine, register all of them. We do a few test prints along the way. So
Yeah.
printing T-shirts to before we do the full run, just to make sure everything's aligned, everything looks good, and then it's like, we're ready to go. And so somebody wanting 50 T-shirts, you know, if we're focusing on one job,
Sure.
it's a few hours worth of work before we even start printing.
Yep.
And then the printing itself, somebody wants 50 T-shirts, we're done in 10 minutes. The
It's
printing
the
part,
setup.
yeah, the printing itself is really quick. The setup is what takes forever, and there's a lot of cost involved. So with
Absolutely.
screen printing, can we do small runs? Yeah, but there's just more cost involved because of all the setup. Screen printing is designed to start printing in large numbers. When you start getting into the hundreds, the thousands, that's when screen printing makes the most amount of sense. But even at like 50 shirts, it's reasonable.
Sure.
And it's still a better cost of what direct to garment is.
Absolutely. That makes also, I think that clears it up for everybody. So, and if it
Yeah,
doesn't, feel free to leave some comments, but that makes a lot of sense to me. It's a lot of the time and money's in the setup, not exactly in the print. So when if you're asking for a sample, that's going to be an expensive sample. You're better off probably doing direct to garment.
it is. And just so you know too, direct to garment's a very different process. And there's some good direct to garment printers. There's some not. There's better machines than other. There's a lot of water based direct to garment, which is, if you're going to do direct to garment, you need to go the water based route.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to test, so I found a company that was very well known, and I knew they were using the water based direct to garment machines. I had a full color process design that I sent to them, had them print up a few shirts, sent to me. We printed that screen print wise, and I wanted to compare the difference. And let me tell you, our screen printed version blew the direct to garment out of the water. It wasn't even close. Like, I was actually quite disappointed. I expected to have really good quality from the direct to garment,
Sure.
and I was actually quite disappointed.
So let's talk about that real quick. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at both of them, what are the main differences that you can tell between a direct to garment and a screen printed T-shirt?
First off, we're able to control the colors more, and I'm not a direct to garment printer, and I know there's tricks out there, but somebody has to really sit down there, and because it's all digitally printed, they have to register the printer to get the colors how you want. And so with screen printing, we can alter the ink colors. And when you have a really good experience, kind of what to do to enhance certain colors to make things pop. And so I felt like the direct to garment print was very kind of washed out. The colors didn't pop. It felt like a lot of the detail was kind of missing because it just felt flat.
Yeah.
The screen print version we did just really kind of popped. It felt like it came to life. It was actually of a dinosaur
Nice.
that we printed, and it kind of really came to life. And I actually liked the colors. It felt more natural, where the direct to garment version just, like I said, it just felt dull in the end.
Yeah, that's something I've always noticed too. Is it's just not as like clean and crisp as like a screen printed T-shirt. Like the edges are always just like a little bit blurry. Like the colors seem a little bit more muted. I mean, I have seen some nice stuff, especially like over the years. It seems like it's gotten better, but
It's getting better and better every year.
yeah,
It's not something that I would want to.
it's not something you're ready to start
Behind.
offering.
Yes.
Gotcha. So let's
And,
talk about so going back to screen printing. Let's talk about inks. I think that's a mystery to a lot of people. Everyone just kind of assumes there's just one ink.
yeah.
What are the major ones, and what are the best applications, I guess, for each?
Yeah, so the most popular ink is plastisol. Most people have heard of plastisol. It's what everybody in the world uses. There's different types of plastisols, but that is the general basis. And that is your standard, your thicker print. You kind of feel it's rough. It's
Yeah.
what most screen printers doing. It's a place for it in the industry. There's some good plastisol printers. There's some bad. I personally am not a fan of it, but there's a place for it. And there's not bad. I mean, there's good plastisol
There's a
printers.
place for that.
It's
Yeah,
not there's not bad by any means.
sure.
The next big popular one is Discharge and water base. A lot of people have started hearing those. It's gotten a lot more popular over the years. And Discharge is basically a bleaching agent that goes into the shirt. So you get that no feel. So when people think very, very soft shirts or soft printing,
Yep.
everybody thinks, oh, it has to be Discharge. And water based and Discharge are technically the same thing. Discharge just has a bleaching agent into the inks.
Okay.
It makes it kind of pop more.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So when you're talking plastisol, I always imagine it sitting on top of the T-shirt, where
Yes.
Discharge water base is more a part of the T-shirt.
It is.
Okay.
It's more dyeing. So with water based, you're kind of like dyeing the ink into the shirt a little bit,
Mhm.
and when you use the bleaching agent, it allows it to bleach out the original colors in the shirts to replace it. Because water based really only works on light color shirts, whites and very light colors, and you use the discharge on darker colors to remove the original pigment in the shirt and replace it with the colors that you want. Now,
Nice.
there's always a feel, a little bit of a feel when you get discharge right off the bat, but once it's washed, then you rub your hand, you can't feel anything. It is really, really nice. But
That's what I prefer. I'm always looking
yes,
for that soft hand feel. I mean,
I
all my
I
breakdowns.
love seeing discharge prints in the end. It's one of my favorites, but it's not a perfect solution too. And a lot of people think it is, and we can get into that later if we want.
So,
But
can you use discharge and water-based inks on all types of shirts?
you cannot.
Okay.
You can and you cannot. It's just based off the effect. You can always use something. It's just not going to look the way you want.
Okay.
Discharge works with cotton. It does not work well with polyester. Polyester is a fake cotton, and it just doesn't bleach in the end. So if you use discharge on a 50-50 has cotton and polyester on it, the cotton will bleach out, the polyester will not. And if you do that, it will give it a really cool kind of vintage look. If that's what you're going for, wonderful. If not, then
You're gonna be
you
surprised.
picked the wrong shirt in the end.
Yeah.
And obviously, whoever you print with should obviously educate you and not let you make those type of mistakes. There's always exceptions to the rules as well. Heathered shirts actually discharge very well if they're 50-50, and it's because the polyester is actually white in them.
Got it.
And so they actually those print very well.
What about a tri-blend?
A tri-blend again, it has polyester in it, and we have to. It's not going to discharge very well.
Is it
It gets
less
in that.
noticeable since there's less polyester in it?
Um, it's no. There's actually the same amount of
Okay.
polyester. Normally you would think it discharges well because of the heather in it, but it actually does not discharge very well.
Okay.
It will discharge better than a solid 50-50 color, but it does not discharge very well in the end.
Got it. So the 50-50 heather and the tri-blend, are they about the same as far as discharging, like how well they discharge, or is one better than the
A
other?
50-50 heather will discharge beautifully,
Okay.
where a heathered tri-blend will not.
Got it. Perfect. Any other inks that we should be aware of?
Um, there is this isn't necessarily a ink type, but we love using a hybrid style of printing where we're using discharge as an underbase,
Okay.
and all of our standard printing is done that way. It is the best of both worlds where you get the softness of discharge. It's not as soft as discharge, but it can be very very soft. Um, but getting the vibrancy and the pop of more of a plastisol print without having the thickness. So we use a lot of that. It's not an actual ink type. It's just a method of
It's a
how
method.
we use. And then another ink that's very new to the industry. It's very popular overseas in Europe right now. There's two names. The true name is called. Uh, I'm having a brain fart right now. It is high solid acrylics is
Okay.
the name of the ink. A lot of people call it HO water base, which we usually tell our customers HO water base because it's easier for them to understand, I
Okay.
guess. And like I said, that's pretty much only what people are using over in Europe. People like Nike, that's what they're using for
What
their
kind of
printing.
properties does that have? Is that close to a plastisol or a discharge ink, or is it kind of in
It
between?
feels like a very very soft plastisol, but it's extremely nice and smooth
Got
in
it.
the end. A lot of people when they see it, they think it's plastisol because there is a hand to it. It's a very soft hand, but it's very nice. It's very soft, but there's no bleaching agent, so you can print it on just about any shirt, and it looks really really nice.
Nice. And are you guys using that type of ink right now?
We are using it a little bit. Right now, we're really only offering it in white. We can do a few colors here or there, and we've done a few. It's the way it's printed is very, very complicated. and you have to have the right setup in the end. And it's going
Got
to be
it.
very expensive. It's an amazing process, but the way to print it is very, very expensive. And so I think the price would actually turn off people more than anything.
Sure.
Where when it's a one color, it's not too bad. It's a little bit of upcharge, but when you start trying to get into the 4 or 5 colors, you have to have the right press to print it, because you have to flash between every single color. And the proper way to do it is actually print every single color twice.
Wow.
So
A lot of effort, a lot of work going into that.
exactly. So think about a 5 color print. You would need 15 heads to print a 5 color,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and you're paying for 10 screens and 5 flashes.
Sure.
It's crazy expensive. There's a few tricks around it to make it a little bit, but that's the best way to print it.
Got it.
So I really like it. We're gonna get more into it over the next year. We don't have the right machine to print it the way that we want,
Got it.
without affecting our other jobs. So we're going to be getting a new press at some point over the next year that's kind of dedicated to do the HO water base.
So this is future.
This is
moving
future.
Forward. Cool.
And I kind of really feel that is the direction the industry is going to be going in long term. It's probably going to take years to get there.
Sure.
But eventually, I kind of feel it's the future of screen printing.
So I think we've covered a lot so far. So we've talked about screen printing in general, how to do it, the different types of inks, different methods of printing. So let's get to what are some of I think we've covered a lot of the misconceptions in educating so far, but what are some of the other misconceptions that brands have or people have when printing t-shirts or ordering t-shirts rather?
Okay, first off, the biggest thing is understanding discharge the right way, which we talked about using it. It doesn't work. Discharge doesn't always work. But I think people think that discharge is the only answer out there for soft printing. So people come to us and say, I want discharge printing. And then we really look at it and we're like, we don't think discharge is the best solution. We actually try to stay away from printing direct discharge prints. We'll do it. There's times for it. But most of the time, like 90% of the time when somebody comes to us and they say, I want discharge printing, they don't fully understand what they're asking for. And we would actually suggest not using discharge and using more of our hybrid.
So in what circumstances would you suggest using discharge printing? Let's go that way.
First off, when using multiple colors, you can do a discharge with 5 colors, but it gets really expensive. When we use our hybrid, you're going to save a lot of money, first off. And the colors kind of just pop more. Discharge, the prints become more muted.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, you can have good colors, but it doesn't pop as much. So if you want just a very colorful design, you're going to get better results using our hybrid in the end. And at the same time, we can get very soft. And on top of it, color matching with discharge.
That's another good point.
It's so hard to you really do a true color match,
mm-hmm.
and it is a guessing game a lot of times. Like we kind of have an idea about this is how the shirt we think is going to discharge, and we can do this color, and it kind of once it's actually goes through the dryer, it should end up close to what we want to do, and
Sure.
then that's where the whole test prints come in. And so we'll do one like that color is way off, so then we go back and we got to try to fix it. It just takes a lot of time to get the colors right with discharge. Where when we go the hybrid route, we can nail colors way, way better. So
Nice.
if colors are really important to you, and hey, this is my Pantone I want to use, discharge isn't always the best route to go.
So when is, I guess, discharge the best route to go? Is it when you're looking for a more vintage kind of look and feel, and maybe only a few colors, more muted looking design?
I like sticking to a few colors, and when the design's supposed to be more vintage or muted.
Cool.
Or if you're trying to use discharge to give it a natural distressing feel, if you're printing on like a 50-50, that's always kind of fun to use. So, but people don't fully understand discharge. They just think discharge means soft print, and there's other ways to print soft and get, I think, better results in the end for a cheaper price.
And that is what you guys do with your What's it called? How do you guys call
We
it?
call it our premium standard.
Premium standard. That's what it is. Premium
Honestly, I
standard.
kind of hate that name now. I've been wanting to change it, but I keep getting vetoed whenever I bring up the change of the name. But
Sure.
it's our hybrid style
Hybrid.
press.
I like that.
So
Hybrid.
that's a big misconception. Another one that I wish people would truly understand is that both T-shirts and T-shirt printing is not perfect.
Hmm.
I can't tell you. People have the craziest expectations, and you know what? People should have high expectations, but they need to have reasonably high expectations. Um, when you get a batch of T-shirts, every single T-shirt you get is handmade by somebody,
I think a lot
and
of
they may
people
not all be
overlook that.
made by the same person. They could be made in different countries. So the shade of the shirt, you could have two royal blue shirts made by the same company, and the shade of blue could be slightly different. Not a big difference, but it'll be slightly different.
Sure.
The cut of the shirt would be slightly different. One sleeve might be longer than the other. You can take two mediums and put them on top of each other. One might be a little bit longer, one might be a little bit wider. T-shirts are not always the
Exactly
same
the same. Yep.
in the end because they're all handmade by
I
somebody.
think a lot of people, as obvious as it seems, like overlook that. Like they think
Yeah,
it's like you're making, widgets where everyone's the exact same.
I have had customers freak out on us before because they took every single shirt in their batch, like every single medium, and put on top of each other and was furious that not every single shirt was the exact same measurement.
They understand that you
People
don't
saying, well, this
make the
sleeve
shirts.
is a quarter of an inch longer than the other sleeve. And we are the
Unbelievable.
worst company in the world because it's that. So, T-shirts are not perfect, and then printing is not perfect at the same time,
Sure.
due to the process. When somebody says, "I want the print to start 2 inches below the collar," we make that our base, but it's going to vary a little bit due to the printing process. Sometimes it might be 1.5 inches. Sometimes it might be 2.5 inches. Usually, there's about a 1 inch variance of it. Primes can shift a little bit, and same thing up and down and left and right. We do our best to we have our printers slow down and print slower than what most people are, so they can make sure they take time loading a shirt on.
Hmm.
But if you really get out there, if you take a shirt, and this goes for any shirt in a retail store, if you truly take a T-square or ruler or anything, and you start measuring every single thing, it's like, well, this print is
I'd
this
love to
amount of
see
distance
that.
from the right sleeve to the left sleeve. It's not going to be perfect,
Sure.
but people do expect that sometimes. Is they think that we put the shirt on the pallet, we take rulers and we measure everything out and make sure everything's perfect, then print it. If that's your standard, you're going to be paying $100 a T-shirt because
Yeah,
of
it's going
how
to take
much
that
writing
much time.
into it. Where when you come and you order a bulk group of T-shirts, this is wholesale. And with any wholesale business, there's going to be spoilage and there's going to be a variance because you're printing it quickly and large numbers at a time.
Yeah, and to me, I look at screen printing. It's more of an art, right? It's not like an
Yes.
exact science. Like a lot of variables and things can happen. And you guys are taking all of these inputs and trying to make the best output, but that can't always be the same when you have so many different variables.
Hmm.
So
And you have to kind of embrace it that this is what screen printing is. It's an artwork, and plus, what people don't realize is T-shirts are a stretchable, movable fabric.
mind blown.
It it is going to change when it goes on somebody's body. Uh, I've had some very interesting conversations with people over the years where like uh, basically somebody prints a shirt and it looks great, and then they put it on and it stretches over their body and they have maybe a more curvy body, and the print is now distorted because the shirt has stretched.
And
Uh,
they're upset about that,
and
huh?
now their brand has been ruined
Oh my
because
God,
their logo is not the proper shape.
that's
Uh,
unbelievable.
I said we've had those conversations. It's kind of funny, you kind of joke about it, but people take that stuff very
Yeah,
seriously.
man.
And we have to be patient with
Of
people and help
course.
educate them. But again, T-shirts are a movable fabric. When you print it, it's going to look one way. If you stretch it, it's going to look different.
Yep.
And if
It's
you
not a
wear a
poster.
tight T-shirt, there is more stretching. If
Sure.
you have muscles, or if you're a woman and you're curvy, the t-shirt is going to change with your body. It's just what it is.
It's science. It's
It
science,
is.
folks. Cool. Any other mistake or misconceptions about printing that you've seen?
No, I think those are
Those are
the
the
main
main ones.
those are the
Okay,
ones
those are
that we
pretty good.
see a lot of.
Those are pretty good.
I guess one other, again, really small one is that I kind of touched on a little bit, but is, this is wholesale, and when you order 100 T-shirts from a company, as long as it's a wholesale type printer, there's other printers like Custom Ink where I believe they kind of guarantee it, but you're paying a premium for it. But if you go to your average screen printer and it's wholesale style,
Hmm.
where you're paying that type of pricing, you order 100 T-shirts, they do not guarantee that you're going to get 100 T-shirts because there might be a spoilage, and there's always a little bit of a range, and usually they don't make you pay for it. If you order 100 T-shirts, you get 98 T-shirts. You usually only pay for 98, but there's a spoilage rate with all production, so you might be short two T-shirts, and
So,
that's normal.
real quick on that. So,
Yes.
I think something that a lot of people don't understand as well is that you guys don't actually house, thousands and thousands of T-shirts. You are ordering, now correct me if I'm wrong, you order in the T-shirts from the suppliers
Yes.
based on the order.
Correct. And if we needed to house every single T-shirt in every single color, I mean, I've been to some of our suppliers. It is a insane 500,000 square foot warehouse full
Yeah.
of T-shirts, floor to ceiling. It's amazing to look at, but if
It's not
you
what
go
you
to
want.
us,
Not in your warehouse.
store that and trying to guess what people would want. There's tons of different companies out there, suppliers, and all over the United States. So what screen printers do is they order T-shirts as we need them, and in most situations we can get the T-shirts in 1 to 2 days.
That's great. So,
Yeah.
I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand. And it's like, well,
Hmm.
why can't you just go add more? Or, why isn't this quicker? But, you guys don't house the shirts.
Yeah,
So,
we might have a few, and usually like we'll have extra black shirts laying
yeah,
around or
the
something
basic
like
ones,
that.
right?
But
But
yeah, it's there's only so much, and if a shirt gets messed up in the middle of the printing process, or if we're printing something and we find there's a hole in the shirt, we can't just like go grab another shirt off the shelf to replace it.
sure. So that's
We
where the
have to order
spoilage
it, it
comes
has to
in.
come in a few days later. But as we talked about the whole setup process, we can't just reset the whole machine up again just to print one
One
T-shirt.
shirt.
Obviously,
Exactly.
if something big happens and like 15 shirts get damaged, then
Then you
well,
need to
yeah,
rewrite that.
we might go do that. But if it's one or two shirts, there's a spoilage rate.
Got it. Cool. So we've hit a lot of the common misconceptions that brands have. You've seen a ton of T-shirts. You've seen a ton of brands. You got to have some insight into some of the common mistakes that brands make out of the gate, and hopefully something that people watching this can avoid. What's your words of wisdom to these new brands or brands looking to get shirts printed?
The biggest thing is knowing that the first year that you are a brand is your year of learning. It is. I see brands too much. They have this vision. They want to be the next name any random large clothing company out there, from Johnny Cupcakes to Obey or whatever. They see what they're doing and they want to be that. So they want to copy, have every single finishing from the neck tags to the hem tags to folding bag to multiple locations to, just crazy stuff. And then they want to do the custom boxes and, you know, hang tags, just everything. They want to do the works. They want to wow their customers, which is great. You do want to wow your customers.
Absolutely.
But when you're starting out, you need to make money in the end. And I have seen, there is a customer we worked with one time that, started a brand, went out there, spent great money building a website, you know, hiring great designers to design his stuff. He did every single finishing you can think of, printed, I think he came up with something like 10 designs, printed at least 100 shirts of every single design.
Wow.
I think he spent somewhere in the range of $15,000 starting. But when he got all said and done, his costs per shirt were, I think it was in the like over $15 range. It might have even actually been more because I think he even did custom packaging. So if he wasn't selling a shirt, And he had to start selling shirts for like 40, almost $50 to really make a true profit.
Yeah, that's
And
tough.
in the end, nobody wanted to buy his stuff for that much.
Sure.
And so we try to encourage him that you need to drop your price. The $20 to $25 range is what people kind of
That's the
expect
sweet spot.
a t-shirt. That's the sweet spot. And he said, "Well, I can't because my cost per shirt's $15." And I was like, "Well, that's a problem. You're starting out as a brand new company. You dropped all this money, and you didn't really think it through properly, and now your cost per goods are just way too
Way too
high.
high.
Start small, start simple. Is it nice to do like printed tags? Yes. You know what? Pick a finishing, do one of them. Don't do
Agreed.
all of them.
Yep.
Don't worry about the custom packaging. Be creative with your packaging. There's one company I really like called Deli Fresh Threads, and Biggie over there, his packaging is he takes your plain brown bags that you take your school lunch in,
Yep.
and that's his packaging, and he brands it really well, throws some stickers in it, puts a stamp on it, and makes it look like here's your school lunch.
Yeah.
Genius. It doesn't cost them anything.
You
They
got to be
go out
creative.
there and they get these really nice custom boxes, which are very nice, but those are for like high end, limited edition, well established companies do that. When you're starting out, you need to get your stuff. You're not going to be printing very large numbers, so you need to keep it simple. Get your stuff out there and focus on getting your money back from your initial investment
Hmm.
and learn from it. You're
Yep.
going to get a very good idea of what your customers like and don't like, and during that first year. And chances are you're going to lose a lot of money that first year. The key is to minimize that loss and not discourage you from moving forward. If you lose too much money, you just close up shop and
It's going to be very discouraging and
yeah,
hard to move
you're
on.
just like, this is never going to work. I don't understand it. No, I mean, ask any business owner. The first year, you learn, you make a lot of mistakes, you learn from it, and you usually lose money that first year. It's what you do with those mistakes, what you learn, and going into the second, third year to become profitable. Um,
Yeah, it takes time. I think a lot of people, and I've touched on this before with other interviews, is a lot of brands look at this and I feel like they think it's going to be this overnight thing. It's super
yep.
easy. You can print shirts and like put up a site and like it's
They
really
think
like
quit their day job.
yeah, like in the next 30 days, and the second they put up the site, there's going to be a ton of people knocking on their door. But unfortunately, like that is extremely, extremely rare, if not ever not the
Yeah.
case. So it does take a lot of time, and like you said, the first year you should be really looking at the mistakes you made and how to correct them, how to validate your idea. And I love all these finishings and hem tags and custom printed neck tags and boxes and stuff, but like out of the gate, I like your advice there. Go with one and then build up from there. Do something that makes it feel a little nicer than, a standard t-shirt, and then kind of build up, but you don't need to do every bell and whistle until
Yeah.
you've, really built up brand that's, running on all cylinders.
Yeah, you want to get your money back. You need to minimize your costs to be able to turn out there, and you're going to sell as many as you can. Then you just need to discount it, get as much money as you possibly can back, and then reinvest it back into the company. Don't make it your full-time job. The people who do this as a full-time job have had their clothing company for like 5+ years usually,
Yep.
and have worked their tail off. They don't take a single dime for themselves. They put it back into the business. They work their normal job, and after like 5+ years, they're like, "Hey, I can finally quit and do this." But it's years and years and years of hard work. It is not a overnight success.
No, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite lines, Ugmonk, Jeff Sheldon, like it took him
Yeah.
years. I mean, and his brand is super successful now, but that didn't happen, year one, or I think it took him, 3 or 4 before he quit his job and took
Yeah.
it full time. And he's done everything right. So it does take time. So speaking of time, we're at 40 minutes now, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time here, especially yours. So let's just sum it up. Let's close it off. Threadbird. Why print with Threadbird? Why you guys, aside from the huge amount of knowledge that you've dropped?
So, we try to be different than most screen printers. There's a million screen printers out there. The main thing we focus on is a few things. Is first off, our customer service. We train our staff to go above and beyond to really educate our customers and be that company that I wish I could always find. We got a great people on staff. trying to be available from phone calls, through our chat system, through email, and just be that, hand, hold your hand around the way and make sure you're getting a product that you're going to love along the ways. Because we want to be more than just a screen printer. We almost want to be like consultants. Our motto is like, you want to help companies, their tribes grow, become bigger, instead of just printing t-shirts for you along the ways.
That's
So our
great.
customer service is, top of the line. Our sales staff in general, as well as in our quality. We really focus on keeping up with what the trends are, the newest technologies, and always improving. We don't want to use, the same technology that, has been around, for the last 10 years. We're trying to do what's new, and have just the best possible product out there in the end. So, we care about our customers. We want to see them be good. The last thing I want to do is, for some company to come in, drop a ton of money with us. I mean, it's great on the short term, we make money, but then that clothing company turns around and fails, and then they never come back to us.
Yeah,
We'd
absolutely.
rather help them make that better decision on start small, and then let them, come back and hopefully become that great company, like, people like Uncle and everything, who, 5 years later, they're killing it.
Absolutely.
That's where the money really is for everybody. Because everybody's now successful at that point. If we don't want the one-time business, because they just weren't educated or they're unhappy about their stuff.
Yeah, and speaking from experience, obviously, we go way back. I even, was a rep for Threadbird for, quite some time, and Threadbird's always been a huge part of I Am the Trend. And every shirt I've seen, you guys have always knocked it out of the park, and I wholeheartedly mean that and believe that. So hats off to you guys. Keep up the amazing work. It's been always incredible to see what you guys are up to.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me on here, man. I love it.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we'll put a link to Threadbird in the description. Any discount codes we can share or anything special going on right now?
I know we're doing a sell on hoodies. Actually, I think it's now ending.
Okay.
But I will pull this off. Anybody who watches the video, I will extend that sale until the end of March. I think it ended on yesterday, but I will at least extend that sale to the end of March, as long as you say that Nick said it's okay. I Am the Trend video. I'll tell my staff.
And what's the sale? It's a hoodie sale?
It's a hoodie sale on Independent Training Company. We're doing $1.50 off per hoodie.
All right, cool. Well, I need to get this video up as soon as possible then, so then we get people the most amount of time. So thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks again for your time, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, take care, man.
Bye.
This episode of I Am the Trend TV is brought to you by Threadbird Printing, high quality screen printing at affordable prices.